Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Dream. Today I'm very excited to have Vaughn Wyant, our president and CEO, joining me today. So thanks so much for joining us and welcome, Vaughn.
Hey, thanks, Robert. It's good to be here. This is fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation for us.
You bet.
I start every podcast off and I ask, what is your first memory of Porsche?
Wow. Well, it goes back a long way because we chased down the opportunity to represent this brand for decades before we actually got it, and it was back when Porsche was headquartered in North America in Reno, Nevada, and so I kept all of those letters. Unfortunately, it was kind of before emails, so we actually had to type a letter out. So I kept them all, which is one of the reasons that I think we ended up being awarded our first Porsche franchise, because we were able to prove how passionate we were about the brand and how long we chased it. And I really, really got into the brand when I became a dealer and started to understand the history of the brand, the racing heritage, where it started in the late 40s and where we are today. And so I became fairly quickly what you would term to be a Porsche-aholic, which is like you can't get enough of them. One's not enough and two's not enough. Like you could have 100 of these things. They're so cool.
Well, that's a fantastic story. And can you remind me, when did you get your first location? And that was in Saskatoon that you guys did get the first open point.
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot now, Robert, but I think it was about 2012 or 13 when we actually opened that store in Saskatoon.
Yeah, and so, and you've got your son-in-law, my good friend Scotty Taylor, running that store for the last probably 4 or 5 years, kind of maybe even a little bit longer.
No son-in-law jokes here, okay?
No, that was
Scotty.
Very nice.
No, we love Scotty. He's awesome, but
yeah.
Who can't make fun of their son-in-law?
Of course. I was fortunate enough to come out to the unveiling of the 918 with you, and I believe it was in 2015. Maybe just tell us a little bit about that, how that all came together, the uniqueness of the cars that you got, and just a little bit about that story.
Yeah, maybe even answers your first question better too, because when Porsche announced the supercar, which was the 918, a hybrid car, fastest car that they had ever built, and one of the fastest production cars ever built. There wasn't much known about it, and nobody had a chance to see it or really drive it. And early on, there weren't a lot of early adopters for that. In other words, they were going to build 918 cars, and they didn't have 918 sold. And they were having a difficult time because, as you know, they were about $1 million US to buy that car. And I was on a Porsche Premier incentive trip in Hawaii with our new president at the time. And I had met him for the first time, and we were just casually talking. And I said, I'd be interested in buying one of those 918s because they had an incentive. They needed to sell about 27 for Canada. I'd be interested in buying one, and his mandate was to get these cars, in some people's hands as quickly as possible. And so I said I'd buy one if I could get it built in a color that I wanted. And then I just said, completely off the cuff, you know what? I'd probably buy two. He said, well, what do you want? I said, well, I want them built in Gulf colors, the original Gulf colors. And if you could do that, I think I would take two. And his answer was, well, it's impossible. I said, well, you know what? If you don't ask, you don't get. So anyway, I won't go through the whole story, but we ended up, convincing them and convincing the, at the time, Gulf sponsor to allow us to have these cars built. And they were the only real two Gulf cars built in the factory in a 918. There were a couple of other cars, I believe, built, but they were tape striped. They weren't the exact Gulf colors, and these had the painted Gulf logos on them, and spectacular cars. And so that's where I really realized that this is really something, this brand. And of course now we've moved into collecting 356s and speedsters and old Targas and things like that. And it's just, you just kind of can't get enough of the brand.
Yeah, and you mentioned the paint job, the Gulf livery. You have since done what vehicles? How many vehicles do you now have in that same livery at home in
Yeah, in the Porsche brand, we have a GT2 RS 2018, have a 2016 911R, and to my knowledge, those are the only two cars in existence built in the factory in Gulf colors. Both iconic cars, both highly sought after, both probably fairly valuable. I have a 2018 or 19 GT2, Turbo S coupe, which we had built and took European delivery of that car. And I have an ST coming that is built in Gulf Blue that is supposed to be here about the end of February, which is going to be a super cool car because, of course, it's a stick car, right? Which is, for me, the ultimate driving car. And so it arrives. But I have some other cars in some other brands built in the factory in Gulf colors that kind of add to it. I've kind of become known as the Gulf guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the value of the cars is there because of the heritage of obviously the Porsche brand, the heritage of the Gulf and Porsche racing partnership that existed, back in the 70s, and the rarity of the cars. There's just very few of these cars out there, so they're fun.
If I put you on the spot and asked what your favorite Porsche that you currently have in your collection is, would that be a tough decision? Does anything jump out at you?
It's actually tougher than answering who's your favorite child.
I'll leave that one alone.
Yeah. No, I can't answer that. They all know. They're all my favorite. I have to tell you right now, and it's a strange answer. I drive my 911R every summer. Oh. And it is just the coolest car to drive. It's not equipped with tons of technology. It's just a driver's car. It sounds great. It handles great. It looks awesome. It's got the original style of interior, the houndstooth.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's fantastic, and it's just fun to drive. You can drive that car every day. I mean, do I love the 918? Absolutely, but it's not really an everyday driver. I mean, with that car, you're always battling people leaning out of their car taking pictures of you. Now, are they taking pictures of the car or are they taking pictures of me? I can never figure that out. But it's almost like it's like that car's a movie star.
It's nervous. So I would be tasked with moving that car, one of the ones that we had out here around the dealership. Moving it around the dealership, I was afraid of something happening, and it was in full control. Being on the streets would be very nerve-wracking.
When I used to take it out, the odd time I'd take it out, for dinner or something. I mean, you had to pre-plan a place to park that car, and you didn't dare let anybody drive it. And we did sell one of the two. Each of those two cars was unique. They were both Gulf painted. They were slightly different to make them each a one-off car. And we did sell the one car on February 29th of 2024, and it set by far a world record for the value of a 918. So that was very satisfying for me because when we got those cars, I put a value on those cars. I said, these cars are worth this much money. And there were a few people that said there's no way, but they set the new bar, and I was not only right, they ended up being more than right. So.
Yeah, it was a very exciting thing for me to watch when I was watching the auction live. They certainly went for more than I expected. I'm not nearly as kind of dialed in on that as you were, but it blew my mind. The speed and the aggressiveness of the bidding was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Again, I'm not that familiar with auctions, certainly not as much as you are.
Well, it's nerve-wracking too when you got that car running through and you don't really know, right? You've got a floor price and there is no ceiling price, and you really... you reluctantly accept a floor price, right? Yeah. And almost feel like a failure if that's all you get is the floor price, right? And when you run a car at auction, you have to negotiate with the auction houses what the value is. And when it gets that much more, you're right and they're wrong, right? Yeah. But it helps. Everybody that owned a 918 in the world got a price lift from that sale. And immediately, you just saw all kinds of action. People wanted to buy 918s. Brokers wanted to buy them and sell them because all of a sudden, there's some serious money in buying and selling those cars. So, it's kind of fun for, we've got two small Porsche stores in Saskatoon and Kelowna. It's kind of fun to be on the leading edge of that and saying, you know what, that all started here. That didn't start in New York or London or Los Angeles or New York. It started in Saskatoon.
And with you, it's a very, very cool story. I'm fortunate that I've been able to kind of be a part of it on the outside looking in, but it's been very fun. You mentioned Saskatoon, you've got some dealerships. So a little bit about your history. You started off with no dealerships. You started off as a sales executive, and now you've moved up all the way to having quite a large corporation. How many stores do you currently have, and geographically, where are they all located?
Yeah, we got 19 stores. We have more rooftops than that because we have some subsidiary businesses that, like Collision Center and like those kind of things. So, we have more rooftops. But I would say that our head office or our the main core of our businesses are in Saskatoon, and then we have a good number of stores in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, a small one up in the northwest of Saskatchewan. Then, of course, in Calgary we have a couple, and in Kelowna, Vernon, we have a bunch. So, sort of try to have very strategically these buckets where we try to expand our businesses within the markets that we already exist because it's very efficient from a human resources standpoint, from a brand standpoint, from a travel standpoint. You can come to one location and visit a whole bunch of your locations at the same time. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And you're right. I started selling automobiles, and we certainly weren't called sales executives back then, right then. There was nobody in the world selling cars was ever called an executive, I got to tell you. But the business was the same. Selling is just another way of describing building a relationship. And so, I always think that the word salesman or salesperson or whatever is a bit of a misnomer. Really what you are is a relationship builder. And the stronger you build a relationship, the faster you build a relationship, the better the deal is for both sides because you're building up trust and you're building up respect. And who doesn't want to deal with someone they trust and respect? And that's the function. That's the only real job of someone that sells anything is building up that relationship to as close to the best relationship you have in your life, which might be a family member, a mother, father, brother, sister, because that's a pathway to a sale that is easy. And they are willing and happy to refer their friends and their neighbors because they had such a great experience. Whoever goes home and says, I was at the dentist and it was the worst dentist I've ever been into, and then says, but you should go see them, right? You don't do that, right? It's all experiential. Everything that we do in business and in life is experiential. How do we treat one another? What kind of compliments do we pay each other? When you leave a place, does it make you feel better or worse? Do you ask for a server's name when you go into a restaurant so you can have a symbiotic relationship with it? It's good for both, right? Yeah. So that's off your question, but I started doing that, and I was naturally good at that, I guess, because it kind of took me from one step to the other without having any predetermined plan. I never got into this business thinking, boy, one day I'm going to own a dealership, or I'm going to own 2 or 3 or 2 Porsche stores, which I'm telling you, owning Porsche stores, anybody in the industry will tell you that's the dream. Yeah. That's the dream for anybody in this business to own a Porsche store.
That's incredible and a fantastic story. And you're so right. I jokingly say that we're dream facilitators at Porsche. Because Porsche is a want, not a need. Nobody needs a Porsche other than a race car driver. They want it. And therefore, we have to give them an experience that sets us apart from everybody else and goes into the way that they feel about that experience.
Yeah, and it compares that brand to other brands that they've driven. And, there's not a brand out there that don't build reasonably good quality cars. So, but they're all different prices. And when you get into a premium car like a Porsche, it's easy to see very quickly why they call them premium luxury and why, in my view, Porsche is that much more premium than a lot of the other premium brands. But, it's like anything else. There's a cost attached to that. But a lot of that extra cost is retrieved usually in the resale value, in the determination that there's not a ton of these for sale on the pre-owned market because we don't pump the market with a bunch of brand new ones. So they maintain a high level of their value. And how many times have I heard over the years that I've always wanted a Porsche, any Porsche, like 5-year-old Porsche, 3-year-old Porsche. And when they get it, they go like, this is what I've always wanted. It's almost like people that retire and they finally get to buy their Porsche, Macan or Cayenne or a 911. And it's like, to them, it's everything they've worked for is to facilitate that dream, just like you said. And when they get it, it's such a monumental vote of self-confidence that you've worked really hard and you not only deserved it, but you've earned it. And it says something to everybody around you. And they say, how do you like your Porsche? And they go, it's just unreal. Yeah. It's hard to describe.
It's like nothing else.
Yeah, it's hard to describe.
You've got some other interests as well, one specifically, and that's Tricor, connected with the automotive
Yeah, so
industry.
Tricor Automotive
Tell me a little bit
Group
about
is,
that, how it's helped
is
you
a,
grow, what that looks like for you.
We have about 175 rooftops, probably about 50 or so investors, and now spread out into the United States as well. And really, it's a reinsurance business. It allows the dealerships to facilitate things like extended warranty, life insurance, disability insurance, security, some financing details. We have employee benefits, and it's not a co-op, but it's like a conglomerate of successful automobile dealers that have decided to take control over those services for their own good, as opposed to having them sublet out. Because everything that we do in this business, in fact, everything that's done in every business, somebody's making some money on it. Like, they're not doing it for free. And the one thing that you lose when that happens is you lose control. And the more control you have over the services that you provide, the better service that you can provide. So Tricor is a service provider of things in the industry that we use every single day with most of our customers. So it's a very good added. And I've always told people, outside of my first dealership, that is singularly the best thing I ever did, because it's allowed me to build and expand and grow and reinvest. And we're not just reinvesting in businesses, we're really reinvesting in people, because we've grown some great people in this business, as you can attest to, and you get them to the point that you have nowhere to put them. You've trained them, you've brought them from an 18-year-old wash bay technician to an oil change technician to a master certified gold level Porsche technician. And the only way you can do all of those things is to have facilities and businesses to put them into. Otherwise, you lose them to a competitor.
Absolutely. That's such a cool story. And do you mind if I ask, when did you first get into Tricor?
Yeah, I can tell you that exactly. It was 1988. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I was not the first investor, but I was probably a year and a half to 2 years in, and I was asked to join, and there was a very small group at the time. There's probably only 10 dealers in it, founders. And like every startup, you need tonnage, you need volume, to grow anything. And so they went to some volume guys, and that was our big Ford store in Saskatoon. And so we grew the volume, and I served on the board and as their chairman for many, many years, just stepping down just 2 years ago. So yeah, it's been cool. It's been a great learning experience. One thing about the car business is you learn the car business, you learn all the facets of the car business, whether it's parts, service, pre-owned, leasing, new car sales, collision center business. We have like 6 or 7 or 8 businesses that could operate independently in the independent world. We operate them all. So you learn about all that stuff, but you don't get a big lesson in some of the other business things like finance, mergers and acquisitions, a lot of much more detailed stuff. Tricor allowed me to have a front row seat to learning all of that stuff and becoming a more rounded business person.
Wow, that's just an incredible story. And I've obviously been part of the group for over 11 years now and seen the benefits of Tricor personally and the growth of Tricor since that time. One thing that you're involved in that's near and dear to my heart is Great Western Brewery, obviously because of the beer side of it. I've always been fascinated with you being part of that, but also the story of one of the beers that they have, the original 16.
Oh yeah, we're talking about beer, not Porsche. That's interesting.
Yes.
The Great Western Brewing Company, it's been in Saskatoon for over 100 years. It was actually originally owned by Conrad Black's grandfather. And so a lot of people didn't know that. It was called Hub City Brewing, which is a nickname for Saskatoon, actually. And it evolved over the years. It was a Carling O'Keefe brewery, then it was a Molson brewery. And when Molson shut down the brewery, a bunch of the brewery workers, 16 of them, made an offer to buy it and used their RSP money and borrowed some money from the Saskatchewan government at the time, and were successful in buying it. And they were great people. Some of them have passed along now. There's a few of them left, but we decided a number of years ago to build a beer and pay it as a tribute to those original 16 people that saved the brewery, saved the close to 100 jobs in Saskatoon, and for all practical purposes, the only brewing industry other than craft brewers that now exist, and there's a number of them. But it's a full-size, if you can imagine, Molson, Carling O'Keefe size plant. So it's not a craft brewery. It's a regional brewery now. And we built this beer, an incredible product, won many awards. We're the official beer of the Calgary Flames. We're in the Calgary Saddle Dome. We've done some great things. You know, if your next question is how's the beer business, it's the beer business is, it can be challenging. Like it ebbs and flows with the economy, like the car business does. Consumer taste profiles change, ready to drink coolers were popular for a while, starting to wane off. We're hoping beer comes back a little bit, but it's an interesting business, very capital intensive business, but it's a fun business too.
Yeah, it always fascinates me, so I wanted to touch on it because I love the story so much. Just kind of wrapping up, you are the current standing president of Porsche Dealer Council that represents the dealer group in Canada. What's that look like? And just for those that don't know much about what that might look like.
Yeah, most of the OEMs have what they call dealer councils or dealer advisory boards, and it's an opportunity for dealers to have representation at the table with the OEM to talk about, opportunities, concerns, help craft programs that help the dealers, their employees, the consumers, and have a dialogue going forward that really fosters, again, trust and respect between the retailers for the investments that we make to build the brand. Like this is not when you own a let's just use Porsche as an example. We have a responsibility to a whole bunch of different people on an ongoing basis that help build value for everybody. First of all, there's our employee group. Like we wouldn't really be anywhere if we didn't have great employees, and if they didn't get up in the morning saying, I can't wait to get to work today because I get to spend the day with all my best friends. That's really what we try to promote in our organization. Not one of these deals where you wake up and going, I got to go to work. I don't like who I work for, don't like the people I work with. We try to do, it sounds kind of corny, but it's that family thing where you're going, I get to hang around all day with my friends. Everybody gets along with each other. It's fun. I want to attend the Christmas party. Like, this is cool, right? So, having that dialogue with the OEM at a dealer council level helps us to make sure that we are always thinking about our employees front and center. We're always thinking about our customers. And our customers need to have a place to come. We need to invest lots of money, and these are all requirements of the brand because they want the brand represented in a certain way all the time, never deviated from that. So we have programs in place to make sure that we're very consistent with the way we deal with our customers and what the customer expects when they come into a Porsche store, not just ours. And then, of course, it's the brand itself. You talked about, a brand history and stuff. This brand has a rich history of 75 years, a 75-year history that we are charged with protecting for the next 75 years. And the face of Porsche is not the factory. The face of Porsche is your local Porsche retailer. So to our customers, we are Porsche. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we uphold that responsibility in every positive way that we possibly can. And the dialogues that we have with the OEM, with the factory, really, really help us stay on that team and want to be on that team. And frankly, when we have a customer with a problem, it's everybody's problem. And we need to solve that quickly. And having that dialogue helps us to understand how they think. It helps them to understand how we think, and we can pass through comments and the needs and the desires of our customers at that time.
Well, it's been fantastic for me having you be the president of Dealer Council, and appreciate everybody that does that with you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Really appreciate you doing this with me. It's been a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to having you on as a guest, so I hope that you enjoyed it as well.
I think this is really, really, really good. I hope people watch this.
They do. We got lots of people watching.
I think it's great. Yeah, well done. Awesome.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, please like, share, and comment. And we will be back with a new episode in the very near future. Thanks so much.
Feel free to double like me. Right. That's okay too.